Good evening, and thank you all for coming and attending this evening's board meeting. At this time, we're going to do a flag salute and a moment of silence. Public, it should stand. Indivisible. Please take your seats. At this time, do a roll call.
Barshinger,
Present.
Ramsey.
Here.
Ritz.
Here.
Shear. Hine. Waltersdorf. Here. White.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Okay, all board members are in present. We did have a executive session for personnel, student discipline, and some legal issues. Now, executive sessions held since last Sunshine meeting was December 15th, January 5th, 7th, and 12th. Okay, at this time, we will have formal and informal requests to address the board. Do we have anyone in attendance to address the board at this time? One. Correspondence. So the board seats, we received a letter from school Lancaster from Travis A. Whitson, manager of enterprise applications. And the second one was the Spring Grove Area School District invitation to the District 3 Wrestling Championship from Tony Miller. If you are interested, please get with Suzanne for passes. All right, and at this time, we have a special committee departmental report, and that was on buildings and grounds and safety. That is so everyone received that. Next item is special items action.
Oh, Doug, can I ask a question about the report? Okay.
The one that was you
Present. Yeah.
Yes.
It was shared with us by Bill. I just had a quick question for Bill. Hopefully this is fast. At the end of the report, there were a couple of pie charts, and I just wasn't sure if that was time or financial allocations or something that I didn't really truly understand the pie chart piece.
Bill, if you could, please.
Yep.
So those numbers represent work orders that were released.
Regardless of how much time each work order
Correct.
takes place.
Just the number of the work orders.
Got it. All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Eric, for clarification. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on, we have special action items. Ben Ramsey.
Requested a resignation, acceptance of the resignation of Douglas White as board treasurer for the Spring Grove Area School District effective immediately. Appointment of the school board treasurer, appointment of Jessica Waltersdorf as board treasurer for the Spring Grove Area School District effective immediately upon acceptance of Doug White's resignation to fulfill the remainder of a one-year term through June 30th, 2026. So moved on special board actions requested.
And do I have it a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I had some. I chatted with Jess a little bit before. And so I want her to understand this is not a criticism towards Jess. We are new board member, mates. But I was curious, I'm just seeking a better understanding of the process that was that was followed to appoint Jess as the treasurer. I just was unaware of any meeting or discussion that possibly happened to discuss whether she was suited for the position. And I was just hoping for some clarification on how that decision was made.
I appreciate that. So upon of her appointment and with her financial background, thought it was a perfect suit for our budget programs and have more of an insight financially. And since she is in that field, that's how.
And my only concern is that Jess is brand new to the board and she's never been through any of our budget finance. I mean, we've done it forever, but the not going through it ever before, it's going to be a bit of a fire hose for her. I don't doubt her credibility on working with numbers. That was just my concern, but. So that was you and Miss Wilson that discussed it?
That would be a Doug White decision.
Okay.
I'd like a separate vote on item B.
That's fine.
And then I also had another, and this is hope. I was curious as to why Mr. Ramsey was sharing the special action items. I was curious as to why that wasn't either you or Nicole.
The reason I could not do it is because I can't announce my own resignation as treasurer. Okay, so at this time, any other questions? Ernst?
I have a question. I'm going to piggyback on what Eric said. And to head this off, is there a reason why we're not just doing a vote on who the treasurer is like we have done historically?
If it was my understanding as, since I was still under my term, I was, able to appoint for a new treasurer at the time.
If that's just that it's never happened before, I thought we were going
Yeah,
to
so
vote on
it,
tonight.
so
and-
yes. So standard times when the terms were up, we would vote for a new treasurer. But my term was not up and I'm resigning, I'm appointing a new.
I'll just clarify, Mr. White, you are not appointing yourself, you are agenda. It
As-
sounds like based on with Ms. Waltersdorf, but you're not actually appointing it subject to a board vote
That's right.
tonight. I was asked after White was appointed board president, back to the treasurer position, I explained he would need that is he can't hold two officer positions at the same time. That agenda item A. This would serve, whomever is appointed would serve through the rest of his original term through June of this for next year.
Okay. So we'll do a roll call vote on A and then B. Suzanne?
Barshinger,
Yeah, this is A, correct?
A,
Is it-
yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Wilson,
yes,
Ramsey,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Baum, yeah, Waltersdorf, yes, Stein,
Yes. And now we'll do a roll call vote on B.
Wilson,
yes,
Baum, yes, Shear, Barshinger.
No.
Waltersdorf, Ramsey,
Yes.
Ritz,
Yes.
Stein, White,
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your votes. At this time, we welcome Jessica Waltersdorf as the board treasurer. Any words?
Thank you, Mr. White. Yes, being new to the board, I understand and I appreciated that commentary and those questions. I had the same ones, but I look forward to with the background on banking and working with Mark and Jen to being the treasurer and having that opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome aboard. Moving on, we have regular voting action items. At this time, we have policy and Karen Baum.
Policy board action requested, letter A, the 2026 board approval of the attached 2026 committee following reorganization of the school board on December 2nd, 2025. Officers, new and re-elected school board director. Letter B, second and final reading, approval, second and final reading following school board policies, board policy 815.2 and policy number. So moved on policy board actions.
Thank you, Karen. And do I have a roll call vote? Or, I'm sorry,
Second.
do I have a second?
Yes, I'd like a separate vote on item A.
Okay.
And I have a quick question for Chris. This is just a check-in more, discussing the AI policy. I was just curious if you give us like a heads up on the progress for the professional development piece and the student lesson pieces that we want to do hand in hand. Once this is, put into place, this policy is put into place, we've discussed, you had shared that you wanted to do that. So I didn't know where we were at with that.
We haven't moved forward until or unless the policy is approved.
Any other discussions? Moving on, we'll do a separate roll call vote on A.
Mr. White, do we have a second?
Ramsey?
Did have a second, Ramsey?
Thank you. Apology.
Bashir?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Item A, Walterstorff?
Yes.
Wilson? Wilson?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Harshinger?
No.
Ramsey?
Yes.
Stein?
No,
Baum? Yes. Rick?
Yeah.
White?
Yes. Okay, so policy board number A passes, and then we'll do a second vote. B.
Stein?
yes,
Ritz?
Yes.
Harshinger?
Yes.
Walterstorff?
Yes.
Baum? Yes. Wilson?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
White?
Yes. Okay, policy B voted to approve and move on. And at this time, we will call adjournment of the adjournment.
Personnel.
Personnel.
All right, Doug, my apologies. I did miss that. So personnel will be Doug Stein.
personnel board actions requested. Item A, retirement acceptance of the following retirements: Lisa Burke, kindergarten teacher; Lisa Hall, reading specialist; Kim Miller, kindergarten teacher; Beth Mallory, gifted support teacher; Sherry Stanball, gifted support teacher; Laura, grade teacher; Lisa Whistler, sixth grade teacher. All right. Resignations, accepting of the following resignations as listed. Item C, uncompensated leave request, approval of following request for uncompensated leave: Dawn Bear. Item D, approval of the following: Lisa Baum. Item F, classified substitutes as listed. So moved on person.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just, again, got a lot of resignations here again, and I hope we're doing something trying to get exit interviews and get why they're leaving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shear. And if anyone did add those up, kudos to everyone and their retirement. That's 175 years to all of our retirees. Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
Ritz,
Yes.
Barshinger,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Walterstorff,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Wilson,
yes,
Ramsey,
Yes.
Baum. Yes. White.
Yes. Okay, now we'll do adjournment of action voting meetings. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who motioned? I'm sorry. I missed the motion.
Anybody?
Mr. White motioned the adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Ritz. And a second.
Second.
Sorry. First day. All right, so Director Study Forum meeting, and we're going to call to order. Do we have to do anything to call to order? Thank you. Do we have anyone that would like to address the board at this time? Okay. Business and Finance Committee, Buildings and Grounds. This will be going to Bill Stiles, and this is ongoing capital projects general updates.
All right, since our last Buildings and Grounds update, the walk-in cooler and freezer, we've been having bi-weekly status meetings with the district, Low Bar Associates and EI Associates. Project drawings are 100% complete, including structural drawings. The Gordian proposal, is pending approval. Permitting has been submitted. And if everything proceeds as plans, construction is anticipated to start the end of the month. The high school to Spring Grove Elementary access road, base coat asphalt installation was completed. Electrical trenching was performed. During this work, a gas line was struck. GRPS performed the utility markings and missed the locating of the gas line between Low Bar Associates and GRPS. They are covering all the costs associated with that repair. The light poles have been installed. The asphalt top coat was applied last Thursday. The gate is currently en route. Electricians still need to connect power to the inside of Spring Grove Elementary. And the final completion and the use of the road will be coordinated with the building principal, ensuring proper signage is installed and clear communications provided to the parents prior to opening the road. Maintenance facility, since the last Buildings and Grounds meeting, the drawings have been updated. The updated drawings will be ready for further discussion at our next Buildings and Grounds meeting. Surveying has been completed. The boundary lines have been sketched. Once returned to the project manager, a crew will be set to put new corner lines and markers to assure agreement by all parties. This work is anticipated to occur in January, after which subdivision submittal can proceed once boundaries are finalized. YMCA renovation project. The renovation project remains on schedule with substantial completion by mid-January. Main flooring work is underway and is expected to be completed in 2 weeks. Cleaning services are on site and punch lists are starting to be addressed. Occupancy is expected following completion of site work. The site work completion, occupancy, and facility opening presently is targeted to May 1st. The next steps, all items will be reviewed in detail at our next Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting.
A question. I missed the last grounds, but what's the Guardian proposal?
It's supposed to be Gordian. That's the co-op that Lobar Associates is involved with.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm curious, the asphalt, we've had some really cold weather and I know over the years, I always hear you can't do asphalt when it's real cold. I was surprised that we laid asphalt 2 times. And wasn't there any concern with that?
No, both times it was laid, it was 50 degrees and rising. And that's PennDOT specs. And the contractor is given us full warranty on that application.
Thank you, everyone, for the questions. Ben, can you get with Mark and Bill and set up a Buildings and Ground Committee meeting and let everyone know, or unless you already have one in the works?
We were going to do that today after we did the committee realignment.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, moving on. Budget and Finance. Ramsey? Or no, I'm sorry.
Yep, I'll take it, Mr. White. So, so thank you.
Since Ben did the last one.
No problem. I got it.
That's my second mistake, sorry.
Nope, we're not counting. Okay, so you have the memo of the 2026-27, our proposed budget update. I'm sure you have read it. I just do want to hit a couple of highlights, just making sure that there's, if there are any comments or questions, feel free to ask them, but I just wanted to make sure that I hit a couple highlights. So as we started the budget process, one of the things we did was we accepted the audit of the 24-25. And as you can see there, you see our revenues, our expenditures, our surplus of approximately 970,000 that went into the general fund. And you can see our assigned and unassigned balances. So that gave us the starting point for that 25-26 as we are giving our budget updates for the 26-27 year. So 25-26, a few weeks ago, the state approved their budget well after the timeline. But one of the things that we promised you was we were going to bring you back more information when we received information on some of the charter school updates. So over past couple of weeks, we received an updated PDE 363. Now that is the form that we use, school districts use for charter school tuition. So that was revised by PDE. It was released, and then Mrs. Lepo and myself in our office, what we did was we were able to now take a look at that and see what does that mean to Spring Grove for the 25-26 year, and that's what we wanted to bring back to you. So as you can see there, the charter school rates of what we would be charging charter schools are listed there. Based on the current number of charter school students that we have here currently for the 25-26 year, we're going to see a cost avoidance of approximately 480,000. So some really good news there with the charter school reform that's happening. So cost avoidance of approximately 480,000. And that's based on the number of kids that we currently have. And we'll in our next budget and finance committee meeting, we'll go into a little bit more detail on how that 363 was worked. The other thing as part of the budget that we knew was the PCCD grant. We have been receiving them from the state for the past number of years. We knew it was going to be in excess of $100,000. We're not sure what exactly the number was. Mrs. Lepo was able to calculate that based on our ADMs and what the state provided. So we'll be receiving $177,625 this year for PCCD, and that's updates to safety, school safety, mental health safety. So we'll be working with special ed department, Mrs. Ludwig, Mr. Stiles, Mr. Ank, taking a look at all the tiers that the state releases and says you have to meet these sort of criterias before you can use the money. So we'll do all that and make sure that we use those funds appropriately. And then that dovetails us into the 26-27 proposed budget items. So as the board knows, the Act 1 index was released in September. For Spring Grove, it is a 4.7%. 4.7% is our enhanced index. The board voted in November not to exceed that by resolution at the November 24th meeting. So what we wanted to do was give you highlights if today, based on our current assessment, if we were to go to that full index, that Act 1 index of 4.7, that would revenues for Spring Grove would be approximately $2.2 million. We have seen some slight increases in our taxable assessed values, not as high as what we have seen in the past number of years, a little bit less than 1%, so approximately $37,000 there. So not the best news for our assessments. We're hoping to see some more growth here in the next couple of months. On the expenditure side, at this time of the year, we reviewed those known contractual and program increases. As you can see, they're listed. Last month, as we did our Budget and Finance Committee meeting, we did a presentation from Lincoln Benefit Trust, what we call LBT. We know that there's going to be increases in our healthcare from approximately 11 to 15% there. You can see that number. We do know, based on our contract with our teachers union, our collective bargaining agreement there, we know that just for the teacher salaries, professional salaries, we're looking at $775,000, increases in LIU, increases in York County School of Technology. I'm going to talk about the budget from the York County School of Technology next. But you can see the increases there, as well as insurances and the York Learning Center. So those are the known contractual increases that we know as of today. One smidgen of positive news is a number of years ago, as we were reviewing the transportation contract and negotiating that with Christ Transportation in year 5, we were able to work out a 0% increase. And I mentioned that a number of years ago. So we're actually hitting that this year, which is good timing. So there will be a 0% increase for next year, 26-27. Other expected increases, working with Dr. Ludwig and special ed department, we know that there's going to be additional autistic support students coming to Spring Grove next year through the enrollment process. So we know that there's going to be a number of increases in that autistic support classroom area, higher than the amount that we can currently hold in a classroom. So we need to now look at additional classroom for that autistic support. So we are recommending 1 teacher and 3 aides at a cost of $106,000. So a little bit low, because the teaching position, what we will be recommending in the for the 26-27 is, if you remember from last year, there was a teaching position that was vacant, and the board said to go ahead and keep that in the budget for the 25-26 year. That currently is still vacant in our budget for this year. It's currently not filled. So we would be recommending that if that remains unfilled, that we add that to the teaching position for the autistic support, and not fill that position, so that we wouldn't have to have an additional teaching position next year. I know I said a lot. Our next steps are, I'll be working with Mrs. Watersdorf, and just like the other committee chairs, scheduling a Budget and Finance Committee meeting before our February 9th DSF, where we would be looking at our first budget presentation. So what questions can I answer for you?
The healthcare increase of $816,500, at what percentage is that number? Because you have your range
11 to 15. Did we go low or high? We went high. We went low. Okay, 11%.
That's at 11%. Okay.
Thank you, and thank you, Jen.
I have a question, and it's tangentially connected to what you had to share. You shared some cyber stuff, and I was curious. I know I don't see Dr. Dietrich here. Sometimes he's here. I was wondering, and this might be directed towards Dave, could we have a presentation from him regarding cyber online schools? I know that's one of his responsibilities currently, and I'm curious, I'd like to get an update on what he's discovered, and then what he's considering as possible solutions to that current issue. I don't want to ask for it next meeting because it's too short of a time period, but get, I don't know, next month?
Yeah, and Eric, absolutely, no issues to, do that. I just need a recommendation from the rest of the board if they approve, and we'll certainly move on with that.
I'd love to hear it.
Anyone else?
Fine by me.
And I think that's something we had asked for a while ago as well, if I believe. Okay, so we'll move that on. Thank you.
Mark, I had a question about the property insurance. I know the 33,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but didn't we just go with a new insurance company to lower our costs?
We went with a new insurance company. We did a request for proposal. Yes, we were, and we did have
Right.
quite a few $100,000 decrease. But in talking to our agent, the number of, I want to say global issues and even national issues that they're seeing, property rates, their hands are very tied. And they said that unfortunately, this is going to be one of those years where all types of insurance, and especially property insurance, are going to increase. So, yep. Mr. Lepo and I have had numerous conversations with them on and trying to, as well as with Mr. Stiles, making sure that our properties are kept up to date as much as possible during tours, making sure that we have inspections with them. One of the things that we're going to be talking at a budget and at buildings and grounds is a recommendation from the insurance company to help even lower it even more. So, but yeah, we're constantly doing that. But great question.
And follow up on the autistic class. What level is that going to be at? And do we have space for it?
So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ludwig, if she doesn't mind, if you can answer about what level. I'm not exactly sure where we would be housing this classroom as well.
I think it's on. Okay. We're not sure where we're housing it yet. We're looking to see where we have open space for the classroom. So what it looks like is this, we just finished our second day of preschool meetings with Lincoln Intermediate Unit. And at this time, it looks like we have upwards of more than 8 students that may qualify under the disability category of autism. I say may because when they're in preschool, they don't have to fall under the same disability categories as school age. And so most students enter the portal from to special ed with a developmental delay, a DD. And then it's up. It used to be that the IU would do evaluations during this last preschool year and would give us an evaluation with that child, but they no longer do that. So we have started meetings with parents. We have 3 days of those meetings. We finished 2 out of the 3 days. Then we will we will go and visit our prospective students in their current classrooms, talk to their staff, talk to their parents, and then we will complete psychoeducational testing for those students to see which disability category that they will fall under. What we look at now is their paperwork, and we're not certified school psychologists, Dr. Henry, or I, or neither of us are, but the paperwork that we see looks like those students might fall under the autism category. So we'd rather be prepared to welcome those students right now and have everything ready in case that happens. And usually we're pretty good at looking at the paperwork and kind of projecting. So that's where we are.
And for clarity's sake, the number, the one, I think it's 106,000 is that's, you're still asking for that. That will cover the 3 aides, but
Correct.
it wouldn't be, it's not higher because the teacher
That's
was that rollover position that we discussed, but
Right.
they're still asking for 106. Okay.
Most of our classrooms have 2 classroom aides, but we also put a PCA, a classroom PCA for our classrooms with autism so that we can have extra hands with the littles. They need a little extra hands when they start.
Thank you.
All the other classes have just 2 aides, correct?
No,
No? They
all
all
of
have
our
3?
AS classrooms have 3,
Okay.
and some of our other classrooms with students with additional needs sometimes have that classroom PCA.
That way we kind of don't have to have an individual PCA for students. And we can share, when we don't have one assigned just to one student, then we can share staff more effectively. Well, thank you.
PCA is personal care assistant.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank
No,
you.
thank you,
Thank you,
Michelle.
Michelle. So,
Hold on there. Nicole, go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, I'm just curious if everybody can hear me, I hope. In terms of the healthcare costs that seem to be rising, how is I really would like to understand how our clinic is helping to contain those costs as we were told it would. So I really would like to understand how that's contributing to at least holding costs level, which it doesn't sound like it's happening, at least not at this point. So if we could get some data around our medical clinic, I would greatly appreciate it.
yes, Mrs. Wilson. So since our last meeting, we had with Lincoln Benefit Trust, LBT, Mr. Rob Gluss, if you remember that. I don't know if you were here for that presentation, but what I did was I did reach out with him and Marathon Health to work in coordination for them to be able to review data. As he mentioned, it was something that wasn't happening. He encouraged it. So I reached out and we'll be working on that. I'm not exactly sure when that will be presented, but we will fast track that as much as possible.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So you also have the York County School of Technology budget, and I'm sure that you reviewed it. A couple of highlights I do want to make sure you're aware of, as you saw in my budget memo, where the district will be seeing an increase of 6.82% or approximately $118,000 next year. Most of this increase is due to, again, York County School of Technology's increase to healthcare. They're with Lincoln Benefit Trust as well. They're seeing those increases. They are recognizing a 21% increase in their student transportation. If you remember from last year, and I may look to Mr. Ritz if he has any comments or anything he wants to add. Last year, York County School of Technology did a proposal for 12 buses. I think it was four a year for 3 years. Yep. And so this will be year 2. So that would be a 21% increase. And they have the same salary, healthcare, and benefit increases as we're recognizing as well. Currently, Spring Grove has 120 students at the York County School of Technology. Are there any questions either myself or Mr. Ritz can answer as far as for the York County School of Technology budget? Okay. And then my last item I have for you. So you have, and I'm sure you have read the PA Leadership Cyber Settlement Agreement. So back a number of years ago, 16-17, the school district, as well as many other school districts across the state, have been involved in a dispute with PA Leadership Charter School. And this is all relating from when PDE did a statewide change on how charter school tuition was calculated. So I'm not going to go into all of the details, but since over the past number of years, this PA leadership has filed claim with PDE, and now it was back to the school district. PDE and courts asked for the cyber charter school to show this rule to show cause and what the amount was, what they were attesting. It was sent back to the school district. Mrs. Lepo and myself, we reviewed that I believe it was the 15-16 PDE 363 from that time. We both agreed to the amount that's listed in the agreement. And as I mentioned there in my memo, this would resolve the dispute for the 16-17 school year only with a payment of $4,403.73. My last statement in there, there's no admission to liability. It releases us of claims related to that year and doesn't establish any precedents for any future funding calculations with this. So are there any questions I can answer on this settlement agreement?
Are there going to be other years that they're making claims against, or should it only be this one?
I am not sure of that. That is an excellent question. I'm not sure if Gareth knows.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. This is the only year we're aware of that involved any funding dispute.
So we don't necessarily though have a choice. I mean, it seems like you have to pay this.
Tuition to the cybers are calculated by a state formula. This year, as Mark explained in his memo, the formula was incorrect as determined by a court, and it is what it is. Districts that owe $99, some owe $20,000. They're all over the place. So that it's all dictated by state formula.
Any other questions before we turn it over to Mr. Rank? Hi, Chris.
Mr. Zapp. So we have a memo in front of you for recycling some equipment. This was combination of equipment we collected from over the summer as we replaced some newer equipment in some of our buildings. And in addition to that, give us our friends in maintenance some additional space in our technology center as they continue to get shuffled around a bit. So we will, upon your approval, we will solicit bids for the highest company to dispose of those items.
All right. Thank you, Mark and Chris. Management Committee Policy Reports, Rodney?
I understand. I have to turn it over to Mr. Zapp.
I think it's Dr. Guadagnino.
Yeah.
Yep, it's all right. It is, well, you're down here a little lower. Okay. It is comprehensive review.
Okay.
You have, board members, you have two policies before you tonight. The first is 317. It's a revision to the employee conduct and discipline policy. The changes are highlighted in green. We worked with Hope on updating this policy and making some relatively minor tweaks to the employee discipline policy. There's also a summary chart explaining in more detail the reason for those revisions. The second policy is 320, which deals with freedom of speech for employees. This would be support staff, teachers, administrators, all employee classifications. Again, changes or additions are highlighted in green. There were some additions there in the middle part of the policy explaining in what limited circumstances that speech may not be protected. You see the list 1 through 8. So happy to answer any questions. Those are the two policies with proposed revisions here on our.
Okay, Steve.
Thank you. We have prepared, as we promised you we would, we prepared a memo summarizing the key changes from school code. As you may remember, when they finally got around to passing the budget, embedded in that was a bunch of changes. And at the time, we weren't sure of a lot of things. And so we want to kind of summarize them for you. Organized it into things that we need to start doing immediately is the first group of things there. And we've mentioned some of these before. The first one involves requiring us to take cash payments for events, which we always do, but some like PIAA and things would do stuff where you had to buy things online, and that's not, it doesn't work that way anymore. We talked about certification. They changed the certifications moving forward, changing it to pre-K to 6 and 7 to 12. And some minor tweaks with some current teachers. It's giving the current teachers that it might apply to applies right away, but it gives the university some time to get their stuff together, and we'll start seeing teachers coming out with these newer certifications in a couple of years. Mark already talked about the cyber charter reform. Those were the numbers we weren't sure about, so he gave you those already. There's some changes with truancy and what parents and students can do. The biggest one that we see is prohibits cyber charter schools to accept students who are habitually truant with us. So what would happen in the past is we would start putting pressure on students and parents if they were not coming to school, and then they would go enroll into cyber school to get away from that. Now that the cyber charter schools are not allowed to accept them without a judge's order if they're already habitually truant with us. So that's a win for us. There was some school safety coordinator requirements with training and some meetings that we have to have. They're explained there. You may have heard of the weapon incident notifications. We've sent some information out to parents starting on January 6th and moving forward. We must notify all parents, guardians, and employees within 24 hours of any weapon incidents that occur on school property or on the bus or any school activity. So that's new. We've always had policies. We always do the discipline, but now we're required to notify a bunch of people. So we sent that notification out to let parents know that we'll be starting that. And then there's some new cyber charter residency verifications requiring parents to prove or at least provide documentation to the cyber charter schools where they actually are living twice a year. And that's on the parents and the cyber schools to take care of that. So those are the ones that apply to us like right away. There's some upcoming requirements. You can see by March 31st, we're going to need to report to PDE on our current reading instruction curricula. We haven't gotten any information about that yet. They told us they'll let us know later what we're going to need to tell them. So we still don't even know what we need to tell them. We just know we're going to have to tell them something in March. And starting August 1st, there's going to be some enhanced reporting on student attendance and our truancy. Again, we don't have information on that. I'm assuming we'll get that over the summer when they figure it out. And then some things that were longer range, school year 26, 27 and beyond. You can see there's going to be a FAFSA requirement for the class of 2027 and a science of reading implementation for the 27-28 school year and some professional development for the 28-29 school year. And I can assure you we have gotten no information on that yet. So that's a summary of all the things that we know about so far, the timelines, and what we know about it so far. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Then we have the Spring Grove Area Education Fund annual report for information.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Confidential board memo, sorry. Nicole, anything to add on that?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
All right, moving into program committees, curriculum, and that'll be Eric.
It looks like a whole bunch of stuff for Dr. Guadagnino.
Thank you. The first one is a rather lengthy memo. I apologize, 20 pages. And it's replacing a bunch of slideshows and presentations that we would typically do. I tried to summarize things as best I could, put everything together all in one place for you. The first page is kind of like a table of contents for you. So it's listing all the different things that are going to be listed or explained later on in the memo, starting with the assessment data. The beginning stuff is what we've normally talked about. PSSA results, Keystone exams. I have added this year some information about Acadian's benchmarks in grades K to 4 and some IXL benchmarks, K to 6. You'll see that we're going to be talking or looking at some PVAS, which talks about growth. We have, as we normally do, information about our Future Ready PA Index, our building scores, which we get each year. And then the end of the memo, which we'll spend most of our time looking at here, is I tried to highlight some of the key things here, and then to identify some of the areas of concerns, and then listing out for you some of the next steps and their areas of focus that we've already identified and have begun working on. So as I said, I'm not going to. You have the data in front of you, so you can look at it. And I would like to start on page 17. You can look at the key highlights. Try to look at all of that data, again, looking at achievement, growth, all the different sources that we have, and just try to pull out some of the key highlights. Our elementary mathematics performance, it stands out above state averages in 3rd and 4th grade, especially New Salem. You can see those numbers. That is definitely a highlight. We have maintained our competitive position in York County consistently in both 3rd and 4th grade ELA and math over the period of 22 to 24, which is where we can look back and compare where we are, how we've done with our neighbors. So we continue to do very well, and you can see that chart in those early elementary grades. Especially would like to highlight Spring Grove Elementary. They showed a very nice improvement in their building score. Last year, their building score was 74.8, and they showed an increase to 79 or 79.7 this year, which is a very nice increase. You may remember from my previous years, we get a building score from the state for each building. The building scores are based on achievement, growth, attendance. They also take into account graduation rate and career readiness and things, all kinds of numbers that may or may not apply. But that is a nice growth and increase at SGE last year. Looking at some data that we have not looked at specifically in this forum lately, that's Acadience. We looked at some Acadience reading benchmarks. Across all 3 elementary schools, kindergarten is really, really strong. You can see those percentages, and we're seeing consistently over the last couple of years, our kindergarten scores are very high, and they're beginning to show some momentum building up into 1st and 2nd grade. IXL growth. IXL is another metric that we have not talked about much, but we use IXL K to 6. And the benchmarks, we can see that in at the intermediate 5th grade reading showed a very nice improvement, and math improvement last year, showing that. It's another way to demonstrate growth. Our literature Keystone performance remains above the state average, which is nice. And continuing to highlight New Salem Elementary, their math scores showing not only PSSA success, but they are strong in Acadience, and you can see those numbers there. So those are some of the highlights. Obviously, there's a lot of data there, but I've tried to pull out some of the things that jumped out to me. Any questions about highlights before we jump to concerns? Good. Areas of concern, obviously, we need things that we're trying to work on. Overall, just declining district-wide performance trends across multiple grade levels. That is a concern. That's the cohort data that you could see in that one chart that has the colors on it. The trends are concerning, and we continue to pay attention to that. I can tell you the state cohorts data matches ours, so we're not alone in that, but that doesn't mean we want to be okay with it. But it does also match what we see district statewide across the different cohorts in all the different grade levels. Algebra keystone result, algebra in general and our keystone results continue to be a struggle. We're below state averages, which is not good. And we're looking at that's probably our most significant weakness at the moment that we need to look at and see how we're going to address, which feeds directly into the middle school math, where we have consistently low PSSA scores in 7th and 8th grade. Building scores, as we talked a few minutes ago about SGE's increase, multiple buildings dropped where we saw the increase in from SGE. Looking at the building scores and how they're calculated, I can tell you that my calculation or my estimation is that our gross scores are what affected that the most. When I compared other districts with similar scores and their building scores, where I see us lacking right now is our growth. So the state calculates our growth using PVAS. And if our PVAS scores were higher, we would be significantly higher in our building scores, which is what we want. But that's where we're hurting at the moment is our PVAS scores in general. So that's kind of how we ended up in that boat. And then the fifth thing was upper elementary reading remains a concern. Looking at essentially 4th to 5th grade in a drop there. It's a critical point where students are struggling to move from learning how to read to then reading to learn. And that's an area where we've struggled over time, but we need to, still focus on that. So then those are the key concerns. Questions there?
Yes. Okay. I have a few. One, I am disappointed when we compare Spring Grove to the state average. Like that grates me a little bit. The state, I believe that Spring Grove is a lot better than the state average. I mean, there are a lot of schools in Pennsylvania. And so whenever we are below the state average, that to me is like my hair's on fire. We've been here before. I've shared my concerns before. And I just would love to know what it is that prevents us from just competing in the county. Like we do an excellent job at elementary when it comes to all the things you highlighted. That's amazing and awesome. And when we are 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the county, I think everyone on the board expects that. I mean, it's Spring Grove. I feel like we should be there. And so when I see the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and lower positions, I'm very concerned. And so I just want to know how can we support the administrators, the teachers, the curriculum to get there. And I see all of the action plans and I think they're great, but they're like I've heard all of those things many times. And so I'm curious, with 5 years of decline, what is different about these meetings than were about last year's or 2 years or 3 years ago? Because it feels a little bit like we're stuck, and I'm not sure what we're stuck with. And it's a worse kind of stuck because we're slow declining kind of stuck. And so I am open to, and I know I'm one, but I'm open to let's big picture this thing, because that precipitous drop off at the intermediate school, I'm certain that the administrators there and the teachers there are very concerned about that. But are we looking at how much time kids have in the classroom? Is this scheduled the issue? Are the class sizes contribute to this? Are we ineffectively grouping kids? At this point, I feel like it's put it all on the table. Let's see what we can do, because 5 straight declining years is really, really concerning to me. Again, especially since we're comparing ourselves to the state average. I mean, again, I think that we're a lot better than that. So all of these questions I would love, and maybe in the curriculum meetings that we have, or what is preventing us from being 1 and 2 in every category? Because we're York County. I mean, all of us are we've largely had the same group of kids. We're largely dealing with the same financial constraints. So what is it that is holding us back?
I wish I could answer that question in a very short amount of time. I would like to say I totally agree with you. The state average thing has always bothered me. I do put more emphasis and more weight into how we are doing with compared to our neighbors, which is why I put that chart in every year, because I agree with you. We should be in areas that we are in some of them, and some of them we should be better. Where I might disagree with you a bit, and you and I have had this conversation over and over again, is how much weight do we want to put into the PSSA versus some of the other metrics that we've tried to include in here so that you could see how we're doing. There are a lot of things wrong, in my opinion, with the assessment system and how we measure kids on the PSSA or Keystone. Not saying we shouldn't improve. We absolutely need to improve, and all of the buildings agree with that. It's the question is, are we ready to blow it all up because of that, or are we looking at all of the pieces, which I think is where we kind of where we kind of got to in the last year or so, and you've kind of led that, is can we look at some other stuff? I think we need to look at all of that before we totally dismantle anything or before we blow anything up, because there's lots of things that I would say are doing better, and maybe they're a better, reflection of how we are actually doing than those actual scores. I agree with you in a lot of it, but I'm also not, I don't think it's to the point where we need to blow it all up. What has changed and what we're doing differently is we're trying to look at different parts of this that maybe we've looked at differently. Moving on to the last page there, which is the action steps. To your point, we have made it a point for more than the last 5 years, more probably the last 12 years. Every year when the data comes out, when we get the data, we as administrators meet with the administrators in all the buildings and try to examine their data, have them present it, have us look at it, and look at what can we get from it? What usable information can we get from it? We continue to do that. That's, we're not going to stop doing that. We're going to continue to do that. This year, when we did that, though, we saw some specific areas that we want to try to focus on, which are what we listed here. And we're going to try to do something as opposed to just nothing. So those are the things we're going to try to focus on. Math obviously is a focus. I know we spent a lot of time talking about elementary math previously, but they're still doing pretty well. We really need to focus on middle level math and where we're missing the boat there, because I agree we can do much better than we are, regardless of what metric we're using. We can do much better there. There are some things that are in transition that I'm also for us to pause on and not overreact to. One is the state switch to online testing. We don't have a choice anymore. We have to take PSSAs online. We have to take Keystones online. That is a new thing. We started last year. We did it a year early because they told us this year was going to be the year we had to do it. We did it a year early to give us a head start, and that I'm convinced that is a thing. We need to get better at it, and our students need more practice on it, and they need to learn those test taking skills, because they're different. It's different taking a test on paper and pencil than it is online. That's a thing. We have a high school that is in year one of a new schedule that I'm very confident will help with all of this, but it's going to take us a couple of years to work through the bugs and get all that stuff taken care of. We have a science test that's completely new. We didn't even get scores for it. It was so new. That's going to affect 5th grade, 8th grade, biology, Keystone. We have a lot of things in flux. We have some new benchmarking. We keep focusing on the Acadians and IXL. The state came out with something called Firefly, which is supposed to be more helpful than the CDTs we've been using in some levels for a while. So there's a lot of things in kind of flux that I'd like to continue to work. I think we do need to continue to talk. I think curriculum meetings were a great time to do that. I agree with you on a lot of them.
I did appreciate having the Acadians and IXL scores. I'm still content when I saw those, they also gave me concerns because, you know, some of those are 50% of our students are at or above grade level. That's very concerning to me. But I appreciate involving those because I continue to ask for it. As I said many times, if all that we have is our PSSA and Keystone data, that's all I can talk to. So I did appreciate that additional information. And it would be lovely if, when looking at that, we could get some comparative numbers on that as well. I know a lot of people use IXL. I don't know how many districts in York County use it, and I don't know how much conversation happens between schools. But right now, I'm only comparing us to 1 year.
And yeah, correct. And we're going to have to continue to collect that on our own. I don't know if we have access to it across the districts like we would with some other things, but continuing this process, I think will help us gather the more information year to year. I agree.
Appreciate it. Thank you. This is the reason why we are here. And we do dozens of hours of conversations around budget, but we only do that to support this. And so it's, again, a continued, I wish we talked about this more often because this is why we exist. So thank you, Steve.
I think just Steve, may I add something? To Steve's credit, under his leadership, he led Michelle and I both to meet with each building to go over the data. And I'm looking at 2 building principals, and those aren't comfortable meetings because, again, we ask some really tough questions. So I think there's an accountability piece that is always there and probably always needs to be there. And I go back to this is all public data, which means that we can see where the pockets of success or more success exist in the county. We don't have to drive very far to go over to school B, A, G, whatever, and say, okay, our numbers aren't anywhere close to yours. Help us. What is it? And Steve brings up an excellent point with this high school schedule. It could well be that. We don't know that yet, but let's go to a school that has gone through that transition. And are they seeing an uptick of those scores? There are schools in the county that we can go and sort of, and we talked about that. Can we go and visit? And the networks that exist between building administrators, and those things are huge. They can pick up the phone and say, hey, look at these numbers. And I looked at yours, and yours are different colors than mine. And they are again this year, and they are again the last year. And so those are tough questions to ask. And to give credit where credit is due, these folks are trying to figure it out. Again, where are the success pockets? And let's go and talk to them. I mean, send a team. You know, let's go out and find out why X school has blues, to use that expression. Again, we can talk forever about blues and reds and yellows and things, but there are pockets that we can drive not very far to find some okay, talk to us things.
And I love that. And that's what I am all on board. Again, I'm one of 9, but I'm all on board with us doing whatever we can. Like, if I'm totally fine with covering a number of teachers to go to another district to talk about that. Like, let's not let a couple of $100 of covering those classes hold us back from a global change. So I thank you so much for all of the administrators who are working on that. I'm sure you're working on it hard.
We even talked about that in the curriculum meeting with the elementary program, because we are instituting a new program, how there were 2 districts, and one in particular was very willing to work with us. And I know a couple of us said that is a great idea. Why try and figure this out on our own? And I think not only talking with other districts and sending some teachers out, and for, like Eric said, might be more, a couple hundred, but it's not going to be mega bucks. I think that's important. And I think the other thing is we got to get collaboration among our own teachers as well, and which is sometimes difficult to do, because it's a matter. Sometimes some people don't collaborate as well as others. Sometimes there's just no time for it. So I think both the collaboration among ourselves and with other districts would be something we should.
Yeah, I agree. I really like all this new information stuff. I don't understand it at all. I'm going to tell you up front. I don't know what Arcadia is. I don't know what the IXL is. I don't know if they're all based off the same scores, but It's just, it's because it's very confusing to me when you look at state things and you look at their results, and then you get over here and we're at 90-some% and so, but then you go back and you read, you know, 3/4 of middle school students are not proficient in math. I mean, that right there just scares the hell out of me. That thinking, that's telling, I don't care what these numbers say. If this is your end result, we got to fix that. And we've been talking about this now since I've been on the board for 4 years, and we got to figure it out, whatever it takes. Like Eric says, if it takes spending more money or whatever to figure that out, we've got to figure that out. We don't have a choice in this. You know, I don't care if a building halfway falls over before we fix this. This has got to be fixed. So I applaud you guys for digging into this thing. I hope now we're into it, and I hope we get it figured out very soon and figure out what the reason is. If it's, you know, if they're saying now everybody got to do this thing digitalized for PSSA and the Keystones, well, maybe it's something wrong with technology. You know, you know, we keep going downhill, but yet we keep introducing more and more technology. So somebody ought to say, no, wait a minute. Is technology helping our kids learn? Is this doing anything for us?
Well, and I agree with it. It's a catch-22. There are lots of, I think, people that would argue we could get some more things done if we did it the old fashioned with paper pencil, but now we have no choice. The kids have to take the test that way. So
Everybody does it that way.
we have,
That's where we got to get solicitors and stuff involved in this and tell the state, you know, shape up, because we ain't going to put up with this shit anymore. We're going to do what's right for our kids. That's what we got to do. And I hope we do that.
Yeah, Rodney, I completely agree. And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that's the way we need to do it. Just because they're taking these state assessments on whatever medium that they're doing, it does not mean that we need to adopt that same for how we instruct our students on a daily basis. So I guess I applaud this whole conversation because I agree with Rodney. We need to do something, and we need to do it now. Because since I've been on the board and I'm going on year 5, you know, we've seen a continuation of the decline. So we used to be one of the schools that other schools visited, right? So I really want I want that to return, and I want that to return as quickly as possible. So let's get whatever engagement we need to get this thing turned around as soon as possible. Like I said, I see what the issues are. We need help in terms of how do we turn this around and turn it around. Again, I know this is just one facet as well, right? In terms of the scores. But I know we can do this. We have wonderful teachers, wonderful administration. So I know we can get this turned around.
Yeah, everything I said there I applaud all of our teachers and all our administrators and all them leaders and things like that. They're doing a good job. But all I'm saying, if their hands are tied because of something the state is making us do that's stupid, we got to untie them hands and go up against the state. We can't allow the state to tie our hands on fixing our kids. These people know what it takes to fix it. And if they know that, and it has something to do that state code says we're not allowed to do, we need to fight that. I'm done.
Yes, and I agree with everyone's questions. Great discussion. My question is, you know, it starts with accountability first, you know, from the leadership to the principals to the teachers. So what I want to know, has anyone done any back research? What happened 5 years? You know, we can't say the high school because yes, that changed to blocking, but it's been, you know, 4 or 5 years. So it's not like, you know, it was 4 years great and 1 year bad. So that's been a decline. You know, middle school, intermediate, our elementary seems to be moving up, but has anyone gone back and say, what are we doing? Are we not doing the same teaching each grade? Are we not being consistent? What moved that needle where we were good to bad? Has anyone going back to do any homework to say, wait a minute, we have an issue here. Let's work on this, or let's find the source and work on that to build where we're at now. So your points are great. And again, we get this every year, but I think we're at the point where we need to say, hey, out of these points, we need to see 3 or 4 things in, a couple months and where we stand at each one and what is happening. Again, next year we'll be in the same situation, but we don't get continue updates on everything. So my first question is, what happened from now to back? So basically, we need to rewind and see how our teaching was. Was it our leadership change? Was it the, principals change? Was our teachers changing? What happened to our education of teaching? I understand we have to teach to do for the exams, but everyone has their own teaching style. Those are the questions I think we need to ask first. What happened? Where do we start? And that's where we're looking for answers from you, Steve.
Steve, these, the action plans, it says the buildings are developing them. So will we get the specific action plans?
What I think I heard Mr. White asking for was an update. So that's what we'll work together to have once I get going with things to give you guys an update.
And, Eric, you doing curriculum, maybe that's a discussion if we're all in agreement to, find out from teachers if what had changed as well, just so we have a better understanding. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Again, great discussion by everyone, by all means.
Thank you, Steve, for the extra information.
Yes.
Much appreciated.
And the administration to all the teachers as well.
All right, the next one is a quick one. We have a proposed dual enrollment agreement with Messiah University. As you can see in the memo, we provided a complete list of all the agreements and affiliation agreements and all of the dual enrollment agreements and the stuff that we have. This is just another one. Messiah gives our students an opportunity to take courses in dual enroll at Messiah to earn credits if they're interested in doing that. So it's just for your information if you have any questions.
Well, you can continue on if you like.
Mark,
Nope,
next.
yep, sure. What's next? You have a memo prepared by me for a overnight request for 4 members of the business department to attend the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials, our annual conference. This is a professional development opportunity for the business staff. Typically, the PASBO conference is held in Hershey every 3 years. PASBO, what they do is they pick a side of the state to kind of make it fair for everybody in the state. This year, they've chosen Pittsburgh. As you can see there, listed in the memo, we put details outline the total, which is budgeted in the business office budget. Total accommodations. One of the rooms is being funded. Mr. Stiles is president of the Safety and Security Managers group. They're providing the reimbursement for one of the hotel for the conference. And then also we will be using a district vehicle, so no mileage reimbursement. And that's all that I have.
Okay, the next memo is from Mark and I regarding proposed field trips and costs and documentation. As you may recall, over the last couple of months, year or so, we've talked quite a bit about field trips. The first thing on the list is we have some proposed changes to the major trip form to try to address some of the questions and concerns that we've heard in the past, all centered around documentation of what funds, who's paying for it, having business office an opportunity to verify this money is in this account, this money is in that account. So we have a check off, sign off kind of procedure. So you can see on the attached what we would like to add to allow that to happen more efficiently. If you are all good with that, we're ready to start using that from this point on, for the remainder of the school year, unless somebody has a problem with it.
Well, there's also that's not the only change. There's also you're still going.
Well, that's the first part.
Right.
The first part was with changes in red that we can start right away if everybody's good with it, just allowing us to answer the questions that have been asked repeatedly and make sure that they're verified so we don't have to keep going back and forth. The second half refers to substitutes. We've had multiple conversations over multiple meetings about requiring clubs and or school groups to cover the cost of substitutes if they are needed for a particular trip. On the form already, there's a spot that says, are substitutes needed? Yes or no? How many? That's not what we're talking about. But over the course of time, we've had some talk about making a change and requiring the groups to cover the costs of those substitutes if they're needed. We need to open it up for you guys to have a discussion about that. If you are interested in that or not, if you are, we would like to propose putting it on an agenda in the future so that you guys can vote on it, so we have some direction. Obviously, that's something we need to do. If we were going to do it, we would want to start it for next school year, because clubs they're not ready to do that. They're not budgeted. They're not prepared. We need to give them direction, but we need to have that. You guys need to have that conversation now before we can kind of do that. And if you're interested in doing that,
Does that include the cost of substitute nurses also?
nurses are a little tricky because we're required to do that. So
that's
that I
what
would not go down the road of nurses right now. If a student needs a nurse, we have to supply it regardless. So I would recommend leaving that part out. Just talk about the substitutes.
Do you, I guess, Mark, I keep asking why we're doing this. How much money does it cost? Because it looks like it needs to be approved by the building administrator. So they are writing down as to how this is tied to curriculum or how this is going to benefit the whole child. And that needs to be approved by the administrator. And so these trips are kind of sanctioned by the school to allow them to do this. And it seems like a worthy endeavor. And so for something that we think is beneficial to the kids, we're now requiring them to pay for the sub. How much money will that save? Like, it seems like it's a money savings is what we're really shooting for here. How much money would that save as to how many subs we're talking about?
So I don't have that exact number right now, but I will have it for in 2 weeks. If the board wants to vote on this in 2 weeks, or if you want to continue to have discussions, but I can bring you more information. I propose that we can talk about this at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and I can give you some.
It's a tricky question too, because first off, we try to encourage teachers and groups to plan activities that don't require substitutes, just because we don't have substitutes and there's shortages. So the first level is we try to avoid it all the time. And to your point, we're talking about major trips here, because the major trips are what come to be approved, but the building levels approve the not major trips all the time. But still the same thing would apply, is the principals are, to your point, approving them because they feel like they're worthy, or whatever reason you were trying to say. So there's lots of layers to this.
For sports, do the sports boosters pay to cover subs when coaches are gone for the district relays or wrestling tournaments that are occurring?
No, we do not get reimbursed from.
And that's one of the things that bothers me, is like, all of these things are really beneficial, and I don't want to cut any of that stuff. I think giving those kids that opportunity, and if it ends up being $170, the reason why this can't do something that a district administrator would approve. I'm misunderstanding why we're doing this. If it's for, so I guess I'm for just quashing it. I don't know why we need it. That's where I stand.
If I may.
Yeah.
Why don't we why don't we do this? Because there's apples and oranges to some of this, and Steve, you alluded to some of this, because some are major trips and some are like just random field trips or activities that pull teachers out for whatever sport. Pick one. Let's charge the administration with coming back into February DSF. Let's sort of move this forward if we can and sort of get this one approved this month. And then at the DSF, let's focus on the second part of this, and that's the payment of the field trips. And then the board can actually make a decision and send forth, whether it's this year or next year, on just the field trip reimbursement. Steve, you're looking at me funny. I've seen that look before.
So what we'll do is, I think what I'm hearing is that we're going to move forward with the field trip with this form here.
It's just the form.
Right.
If everybody's good with it,
Right.
I think.
And then for the February DSF, what we'll do is from the business office is we will pull all of the time off requests that were due to field trips or major trips and get numbers to the board so that we were looking at real information. Because I don't know what that number is. I don't know if it's 90 trips or if it's 300 trips. So I can't give you that accurate number right now.
Yeah, Eric, I don't, at least from my perspective, I don't think it's about telling people yes or no as much as it is in a transparency of what does it actually cost. Because there's a spot where they can pick yes or no to the other. Like if they're asking for it to all be paid or not all to be paid. So I agree with you. I'm not trying to have everything have to cover, but what do things actually cost when they come in front of us to vote yes or no to? We want the transparency of the numbers. And there's also fair consistency from program to program on who uses and doesn't use some of these things. So if it's a benchmark for transparency of numbers and to try and make it so it's equitable and the same for everybody, that is what I'm looking to get out of it, not for it to be preferential.
So I guess that maybe I was misunderstood or maybe I was not clear. The first part with the boxes, I don't care. That's fine by me. That's just showing whether or not they have the funds for the overall group. I mean, it's basically going as it always is, only now it's transparency across the board. That's fine.
And
For
the
me,
substitute
if that
information's on there
second
as well.
piece of the added, they have to cover a substitute, because from a recent buildings and I think it was a buildings and grounds meeting, I had asked, has any club or group had to pay for their own substitute? And at that point I was told no.
You haven't.
And so this though is adding a second piece. They're looking to add every trip that's a school group or club will now need to pay for the substitute. That's the area where I have an issue.
Well, you had a choice, so you could say, we're asking for you to pay for it or we're not. I just want the transparency of what is it financially going to cost to do this. And it's not hey, this is going to cost $300. Well, it's $300 plus the transportation plus subs. Like, I just want to see the total cost when we're doing this stuff.
The total cost, if we make the changes to the form that we're looking at, you should have the total cost. The question is, after that's done, if there's the appetite to change the procedure and who's paying for the substitutes, that's the
Correct.
remaining question.
Just make sure I didn't hear you wrong, is we're also talking about a couple of different things here. You were referring to like major trips that the board approves. Okay. One of the things I think that Mr. Barshinger was also asking for was, if I have a club, I'm a teacher, I have a club, and I'm just taking a trip tomorrow to whatever, and I require a substitute, the board does not see that. And that's the number that Mr. Barshinger is requesting, is how many trips are we talking here that my club would have to cover in my.
So kind of, I'm just curious, and this is just for information's sake, this is for this discussion. If we're going to add on, we're not talking about the checking boxes and how much of things are going to cost. But if we're now going to start requiring each of these teachers and clubs to cover the substitute cost, before we add that on, I am curious as to how many trips we're currently doing. And this is only for information's sake, so that if it comes for us to vote on it, that we have all that information. I'd also like to know for sports, like how many substitutes we're currently paying. Like we've never asked sports to cover this either. I don't feel like we have, again. I don't keep repeating myself. I think this is a little ridiculous. We're asking clubs to also cover that.
So we'll get the
But-
number of trips as well for both academics as well as athletics, so that we can have that and have a better conversation of what we're, yes.
I agree. Transparency is fine just to show it. I guess when you say the clubs have to cover it, does that mean they have to raise the funds? Or does that mean they have to take it out of their budget? And if we take it out of their budget, that's fine, but essentially what we've done is we've just cut every club's budget because now they got to figure that in as well. Am I correct about that?
If I may, let me make sure I understand, because we're not making a decision tonight or this month to charge anyone for a substitute cost. Right now, it's just on this form. The administration, Steve specifically, is asking that you sort of give the blessing to use this new form. Mr. Barshinger is then asking for additional information from the business world. Tell us what numbers we're talking about. And then the board can look at that number and say, okay, is this something we want to do for athletics? Is it just for the trips from clubs? Is it just whatever? And that's a decision that can be made after the information flows out of the business world so that you can see what that number is. And that can be a February DSF discussion item to move forward or not to move forward. But right now, we don't have a key piece of that discussion, I think, here. No one, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, no one's recommending that anyone pays for the substitute rate at this time. We're just or the substitute cost. We're just simply trying to get that number so that the board can make a further decision or another decision or no decision as to what they want to do with that information. Is there anyone want to add? I'm just trying to sort of bring this to where we are,
Right.
so that we know what we're doing.
And how this, came abreast was every time we get a proposal for a major trip, it would be in there that, for example, transportation, lodging, mealing, total expense to be covered by a budget. Okay, well, what is in that budget? So, I would ask for every year, or then you will see students will fundraise. Okay, that's great too. And again, we're not here to decline anyone not taking a field trip, because some students, it might be their own field trip they get to take. But what we're getting to say is how much of that money is be funded by the school. So, hey, we have $4,000, but the total trip is $5,892. Okay, great. When are you going? Next week. Well, how are you going to raise the difference that quick? So what's happening? You're taking out of the budget. So then it comes down to, again, who's paying for the substitutes and learning. There's a lot of day trips that we as a board don't know anything about, or we don't want to approve them. But it's the same thing. Hey, I'm taking some kids to get some ice cream. I'm going to use a district vehicle. Okay, well, that's great. Now, well, who's paying the mileage on that? Who's paying the gas? Who's paying the sub? So those are the questions. Basically, I think what we're all asking for is, what is our expense of where our trips are going, our day trips, our overnight trips, etc. And are they funded 100%, by the club?
Maybe we're good with just, we want the documentation. Maybe you don't have to go the route of even looking to have the clubs pay for it, because I'm not so sure anybody's even asking for that. I think they're asking just to see the total cost, including the substitute. Is that right or wrong? Am I wrong?
I don't think we're asking necessarily for them to pay for it as much as we're asking, can they put it in their budget? That way we have a more accurate budget. So if somebody says they're going to want to do this and they're going to want 3 days of substitutes, it should just be in their budget. It's not saying that they have to necessarily pay for it, but it is more an accurate budget from club to club, program to program.
And let me be clear that if, making sure that we're all clear, is that if there is a day trip by a club, the club's budget may not come out of the general fund. I think what Mr. White is asking for is that if a club takes a trip and the club goes on this trip, the substitute is coming out of the general fund. The club's expenses are coming out of the club's expenses. So we're going to have that information at a February DSF to make sure that we're all clear on all these subjects, because we're talking about a couple of different things here.
So Doug White, I'm good with the form.
That's what tonight.
That's what we were talking about tonight.
That would just be a shift as to where the money comes from, which fund. If you
Well,
do that.
it's not- It could be, I'm
It's
not,
not a
It
shift.
could-
at all.
right, I'm just going to be presenting the
It could be.
information.
It's not,
Would it
yeah,
be a cut of all of the budgets of all the clubs then?
All due respect to everyone, no one's deciding that tonight. That's a DSF item
We
for
just want to,
February. You've given us the direction that we need to move forward. So I think for the form, Doug, you're in charge. I think we're good to go.
can we actually, just for clarity's sake, because we can maybe avoid Mark doing a lot of work. So what Ben just described, because that's not the form that I saw, how Ben described it. But if that's the form that we're all good with and we want to, because if we're not looking at charging clubs to cover the sub costs, then that form looks different. And we just want to add that into what Doug's asking for. We don't need all that information. If, like, Mark doesn't have to gather any information. If we want clubs to pay for the substitute, then we need what Mark is looking for. So I'm on the board, I'm on the group, I'm on the side of, I don't want to charge the clubs that substitute fee. I'm okay with it adding into the general number just to show what it's going to cost us from our general fund. That's fine. And we could do that tomorrow. But if we're going to ask them to cover those costs, then I want it. But if not, Mark doesn't need to do any work.
Well, I think we ought to look at option A and option B, whether we cover it or not cover it and still get an idea of what we are spending for substitute. I mean, the bottom line is there is a shortage of substitutes that we can't obtain to fill all these requests. So
Well, that might be a totally different discussion. I mean, that's not what, this isn't necessarily going to
that's
prevent.
not what
This isn't going to prevent that at all.
basically, the bottom line is if we're going to charge the clubs for a substitute.
Every other time we ask for options and pros and cons, if there's two scenarios, let's look at the two scenarios.
Right.
And so Doug has expressed an interest in that. Has anyone else expressed an interest in that for the clubs to cover the substitute fee?
I'm with Doug.
Okay.
I want to have an understanding of where it's going because there's an understanding that it's not equitable across everybody. And I would like to see the data and the information to either prove that right or wrong.
Okay, we're good. Moving on.
All right, let's talk about some trips. You have listed for you 5 trips. 4 of them are rocket launches and practice launches. We've seen these are typical. The 5th one is an Odyssey of the Mind state finals trip. Again, this is in place for any students who happen to qualify. They have to go to the regional competition and then qualify to get to the state competition. All of those trips have been checked for the budget stuff that we've talked about. They have the money in their accounts. It's been verified by the business office. None of them require substitutes, so they don't even fit into all of them are on the weekend. They don't require substitutes at all. There is a 6th trip that you have at your seat that didn't make it to the agenda. That is a 2026 PMEA Central Region Festival for orchestra. You have that information. That one is again one that we do every year with our orchestra students if they qualify. This one, you can see the costs. It is actually covered by the district. The budget code is there because that's one of our classes. There is actually one substitute, 1 day of substitutes is required. It's on the form already, but it's also a trip that we do every year. So you actually have 6 trips. And then if you have any questions, I will answer them.
One thing that I noticed that I've never seen before is carpooling with another district. Great idea.
Yeah, the music,
Because especially when there's just one teacher.
yeah, the music,
and one
the
student.
music department does a
Yeah.
good job with small groups and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
I have a quick question. Just so on that form, it did say there would be one teacher, one student for one of those trips. But do we have a policy that requires at least 2 adults to 1 child, where they're not just one-on-one?
Don't know that we have a policy. It's best practice. We try to do that. Yes. But to Karen's point, they're looking to carpool as well. So this is this particular trip is, and some of the other, festivals are a little different in that, and this is going to sound weird, but you have to hear the whole statement. We take the students up there and then we leave them there. So they go, we drive them up. The teachers stay with them the first day, but then the students stay over. They're hosted by the district. The students stay, the teachers leave, they stay up there with their staff. They perform the next day and the parents come up and watch it, and then they drive their students home. So it's a very not typical trip in that we're not taking our kids there and back and counting their heads and everything. We're actually taking them up, leaving them there and coming home with
appropriate supervision.
Correct. Yes.
I guess my concern would be the one-on-one, like in the car, what that opens us up to.
Agreed. Yes. Yes. Typically it's multiple kids in the student, or where you get another chaperones in as well. That's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. Moving on, we have our last of athletics and music, and Karen.
Okay. We have the overnight conference for the athletic coordinator, and we'll let Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. You've seen this annually. It is the same kind of thing. We have, so that you know, cap the amount of lodging per night at $120, which is about the average in that area, not the Hershey Lodge. This, as you also know, is part of the Act 93 professional development. He is a member of Act 93 and is entitled to X number of professional development dollars per year. And this meets that need as well, in addition to the fact that he's networking and doing those other things. So I recommend this.
Okay. And moving on, is there any planning items considered for future agendas? Anyone bring up, want to discuss?
Dave, do you anything more to say about that whole milk, or that's just, I don't know
No.
where that should be talked about, but
Sure, Mike. I'll look to you. Should you want me to speak? This should only take about 20 minutes and the game has already started, but let me get going here. We've had the opportunity, USDA, as you know, or maybe you don't know, but they've made some changes where that schools now will be permitted to serve whole milk and some other products. I focus on the whole milk because it's the easiest one to sort of grab a hold of. And as you know, we always seek as a district opportunities to have some good PR. So we got contacted. Steph Kennedy is in charge of this whole event right now, but we got contacted, I think Thursday or Friday. Are you interested in showcasing the USDA Secretary Rollins and some of his folks to come here to our district and sort of say, you know what, this is a change, and you can put kids in the picture, and it's a warm feeling kind of thing. That we have, and I do understand that they are inviting 3 local dairy farmers. I think they're local, don't quote me, dairy farmers to come as well. So at 11 o'clock, and please don't show up at the school yet because the details are still being worked out, but 11 o'clock this Thursday, there could well be many news reporters out at Paradise Elementary School. Mrs. Janice has graciously agreed. The students will be involved in as much as they'll be eating lunch and going through and having that. We don't know any other guests who may be coming. And quite frankly, with things like this, that usually changes the closer it gets. And suddenly, sometimes they even call that morning and say, oh, no, never mind, we're good. We're not making it today because of X, Y, or Z. So I will put out to the board an email as the week progresses with more details of that. So you certainly are welcome to come. And like I said, Steph Kennedy, to her credit, and Julie Janis are sort of coordinating how that's going to look over at Paradise. It's an opportunity for Spring Grove to be in the news in a very positive way. And we usually say, I shouldn't say we usually say absolutely if it doesn't tax our staff too much, because as you know, all of these things do take coordination. That answer, Mike? Any other questions?
did we start serving it yet, or when does that happen?
Know that We have not. So I don't know when, is there a date for that? Because this is all happening I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mark.
So I don't know if we have an official date. There's a lot of logistics, especially with the milk companies on getting it to the, for a number of years, there haven't been whole milk. So just getting the cartons and all that, developed. So, yep.
And one thing I did fail to say, this is in conjunction with Rudders, and there will be a Rudders truck parked out in front of the school to be the background for some of the pictures. It's a photo op. I don't mean to diminish it to that. But that's in essence what it is. And, good for them trying to make public understand what's happening with that.
All right. Well, it's 8:49. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And before everyone departs, I'd like to thank the community, students, teachers, staff, and administration for coming out this evening. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, the